Good evening, my name is Derek Mayer. I'm a Director Consultant with BNI Alberta North. Tonight's video is on Zoom. We've all heard some privacy issues around Zoom lately, so this video will go through the best practices on how to ensure that you have the best security settings within your profile. So go over to zoom.us and sign into your Zoom account. You want to make sure that you've registered for one and you sign in under that registration. Once you get in, you'll see this screen here. We're going to go down to Settings. Then we're going to come over to the meeting area. We're just going to go through step by step and which ones that you should have on and which ones you should have off. So make sure that this is open beside you and you can listen along and follow along on your own profile. So host video, start meetings with host on. I like to keep this one off for obvious reasons. If you turn on Zoom or it's left on accidentally and you have your video on, that's never the best case scenario. Let's just leave that off. You can turn video on once you enter the room. Participant video, once again, don't force them to have the video on once they start. Who knows if they've forgotten to move something off of their desk. When we come down to audio type, ensure that telephone and computer audio are both checked off so that people can dial in if they're not able to do video. Join before host. I recommend you leave this off. Zoom rooms shouldn't start until you have someone there moderating them. Bad things can happen if you don't, so I recommend just leaving that off. Make sure that you get there early if it's your Zoom room. Use personal meeting ID when scheduling meeting. I really recommend you keep this one off. The problem with this is if you are using your personal meeting room ID for all of your meetings that are scheduled, someone from a past meeting could know your ID, save it, and then just randomly join. We've heard about Zoombombing. That's where people enter into a Zoom room and either have loud music playing or inappropriate video that they're sharing. This is one of the ways that they'll be able to get into your profile. So let's go ahead and make sure that that one's off. Use personal meeting ID when starting an instant meeting. Once again, I recommend you leave that off. Have a random meeting number selected so you don't have to deal with any of those problems. Only authenticated users can join. This makes sure that no one stumbles by your meeting, random numbers, someone that hasn't registered and could be anybody off the street. This just simply means they need to have registered for an account. It's one more step to help you protect your Zoom room meetings. Meeting authentication options. So sign into Zoom, which is the default. We definitely want to have that on. Require a password when scheduling new meetings. Passwords are always a great thing. It stops random people from dropping into your meetings. Once again, require a password for instant meetings. Please make sure that's on. Require a password for personal meeting ID. Once again, it's the same thing. It's passwords. So just leave that on. Embed passwords in meeting link, absolutely. If you're sending a meeting link out to somebody, the last thing you want them to do is have to dig up the password. So we'll leave that on. Require password for participants joining by phone. Absolutely, it's the same problem. If someone gets a meeting invite and calls the same number, let's make sure that they have to put in the password. Mute participants upon entry, this is a great one. This just makes sure that people don't come in and there's loud noises in the background interrupting your meeting. That's less privacy and more just best practice. Upcoming meeting reminders, and this is up to you completely. If you want those reminders on, please feel free to turn them on. Require encryption for third-party endpoints. Absolutely, we want these to be as secure as possible. Let's make sure that's on. In your chat feature here, allow meeting participants to send messages visible to all participants. Now, I have this on. If you're worried that someone might join your meeting and be disruptive by sending out spam or sending out inappropriate things in your chat, turn this off. I have this on. I pretty much know everyone that I invite to my Zoom meetings, so I want that on. But if you want to lock up your privacy settings, let's turn that off. Private chats, do you want meeting participants to send private one-on-one to other people? Absolutely, why not? If it's a BNI meeting, if it's a one-to-one, if it's a group meeting, even if it's a business meeting, why not allow those people to talk to each other? If you have concerns, turn it off, but it's not really a privacy issue. Auto-saving chats. I have the majority of these things all turned off. This is where the privacy really starts to get out. This automatically saves them. It's a lot like recording your conversations when you're on the phone. Let's leave that off. There's no need for that unless you're warning everyone before you start and it's for training or quality assurance purposes, in which case you should be warning everyone. Play sound when participants leave or join. I have that off. I find it distracting, but if you would like that notification, then just by all means, go ahead and turn that on. File transfer. I highly recommend you keep this off. People have been known to pass around malware, viruses, whether on purpose or accidentally. Let's leave that file transfer off. If you need to transfer something, do it in another way. Feedback to Zoom. I have no idea why you would want to have that on, but feel free. Display end of meeting experience feedback survey. Once again, if you want to comment on it, leave it on. If not, just leave it. Co-hosts, allowing someone else to have all of the controls in a meeting. Personally, I have that off. I would like to maintain control of my meetings and delegate as I need to. Polling, I have this off. You can turn it on, especially if you're doing a B&I meeting and you want to do some polling in there, help yourself. If not, just leave it off. Allow the host to put attendee on hold. I have that off just because in my meetings I don't have that need. But if you'd like to be able to temporarily remove an attendee from a meeting, if you're having a large conversation and there's someone that you don't want to have listen in on that, then turn that back on again. I have it off myself, but you may want to turn it on depending on your circumstances. Show the meeting control toolbar. I have this off just because I like the screen to be clearer, but if you'd like to have it on just so that you can see that control bar and it's always on for you, then by all means toggle it back on again. Show Zoom windows during screen share. This actually shows the Zoom controls. It can be quite distracting if you don't mean to do that, but if you're trying to show someone how to use Zoom, then by all means turn it back on again. Screen sharing. I highly recommend you leave this on only for the host, unless you're going to be having someone do a presentation, in which case you might want to turn back on that co-host tab. But for right now, just have host only. That way you're the only one that can control what people are seeing. Who can start sharing when someone else is sharing? Again, I have the host only because unless this is toggled as all participants, you don't even have that option. Disabled desktop and screen shares for users. Now, I have this on so that it's disabled. Once again, I don't want other members of my meetings sharing things unless we've prearranged it. And this is where the Zoom bombing you're protecting yourself from. Annotation tools to add information to the shared screens if you want them to be able to go on your screen and leave little notes. Then leave it on. My last meeting we needed that, but I usually have that off. Whiteboard. This is something that can be taken advantage of in a negative way. If you'd like the whiteboard on as a team tool, then by all means leave it on. But for privacy reasons and to stop any disruptions in your meeting, it's not a bad idea to leave that off. Remote control, once again, if you have this on, someone can actually take remote control of your computer. Even if you accidentally give it to them, they'll have access to your computer. Leave that off unless you have a really good reason to turn it back on. Nonverbal feedback, there's a bunch of emojis and other kind of actions if you turn this back on. I leave it off for the most part. I find them distracting. These are business meetings and I personally find them distracting. Allow removed participants to rejoin. If you tossed somebody out of your Zoom room, you don't want them coming back in again, so this stops them from doing that. While you're in a meeting, allow hosts to assign participants to breakout rooms. If you're using them, leave this on. If not, then just turn it off. It's just one more thing that's eating up resources. Remote support, once again, do you want people to have that ability to remote control and to grab things? If you're doing a support session, turn it on. If not, leave it off. Closed captioning, again, up to your discretion. Save the captions. This is a bit of a privacy issue if you're recording people's conversations. Front end camera control. So if you're on a laptop and you have one on the front of your laptop as well as the one that will take the selfie camera, then maybe leave this off so people can't see what's going on in front of your laptop. Maybe there's a different part of the room that they'd be able to see. It's just a privacy issue. Group high def video. Activate higher quality video for hosts and participants. I leave this off. Zoom is already warning people that the networks are so busy and congested that if you have high definition video and there's more than 3 people in your chat, you may experience a decrease in the quality of your video. Just leave it off. Virtual background. I like using my virtual background. This isn't as much a security thing as much as this is just, can your computer support it? Identify guest participants. So if you have this on, when people come in, it'll notify you that a guest has arrived and it'll annotate them as a guest. So you can see if you're having a team meeting and you've invited in an outside person, then it would note them as being outside. I have this off because I'm pretty confident and I know who's going to be in my meetings. Auto answer group and chat. So do you want your contacts to be able to auto answer in the contact list? Any call from the members of the group will be automatically answered. Again, I have this off. I'd like to be able to curate that myself. Only show default email when sending email invites. Again, I have all of these things off because they just give information that you don't necessarily want to see. Allow users to select stereo audio in their client settings. The more things that you have on here, the more bandwidth you're going to be using. Allow users to select original sound. The waiting room, I have a waiting room off. I don't even start the session until I'm there. So I just make sure that I'm early. If you have the waiting room, then it allows them to kind of gather and do whatever's happening without a curator before you show up. Show a join from your browser link. Once again, I have this off because I want everyone joined and registered and running properly. You can turn this on if you know someone is going to be using an older computer and they can't really download Zoom, then you can do that. I haven't run into that issue yet, and I find this locks it down a little bit more. Allow live streaming of the meetings. Again, I have this off. I don't want my meetings live streamed on the internet without me knowing. When we go down into email notifications here, this is just what you want. Do you want to be emailed when a recording is done? Do you want the attendees to join the meeting before the host? And remember, this is the email notification, so it'll just notify you when it's happening. This doesn't turn that on or off. This is just the notification. If a meeting is canceled, do you want a notification? I do. Again, these are all just your own personal discretion. This is less about privacy than anything else. When the cloud recording is going to be permanently deleted from the trash, once again, this is all just notification. This has nothing to do with the privacy. Blur your snapshots on the iOS task switcher. So if you're doing it, then it actually blurs out that preview. Okay, so it won't be the direct dump. So, that's not a bad thing. I don't use iOS at all, but it's a privacy issue. Your invitation email, again, these are just personal preferences. I'm an English speaker. I think most of the people listening to this are too, so I leave that in English. And again, scheduling privileges, I don't give that to anybody. Now, you can see my keys right here. Don't ever share this with anybody. The moment this video is over, I'm going to regenerate these codes. You can see how it's just regenerating every time I do this. Make sure that when you do, if anyone ever sees this screen, make sure that you're regenerating this. So don't try it. I'm going to regenerate this the moment this video is done. You may have heard other things about Zoom opening up your computer to other people being able to take control. Well, I'm happy to announce that while that is true, they have to have physical access to your computer. This isn't something that can be done remotely. So don't stress about that as much. That's something that they actually need physical ownership of your computer to be able to go through and kind of mess with those things. So these are the settings that you can change to up your privacy game within Zoom. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Again, this is Derek with the regional support team. I can be reached at dmeyer, D-M-E-Y-E-R, @digitallink.ca. Thanks for listening.